a very high rate of incarceration historically, comparatively. And the other thing is the rate of incarceration is so high, so socially concentrated, that we're no longer incarcerating the individual, but we're incarcerating whole social groups. The rate of incarceration now is about 5 times higher than it was historically. Historically it was 100 per 100,000, now it's about 500 per 100,000. If we look at prison, if we add jail to that, it's about 700 per 100,000. Nowhere in the world incarcerates as much as we do. We've seen extremely high rates of exposure to the criminal justice system for African American men with very low levels of schooling. So if we think about black men who were born in the late 1970s and who are growing up through the American prison boom of the 1980s and the 1990s, the chances that they're going to serve time in state or federal prison if they dropped out of high school is about 70%. So going to prison for that group of black men with very low levels of schooling, that's become a normal life event. And that's really only happened in the last 10 years.
Hi and hello, I'm Maria. This is going to be a small video on the prison industrial system or the prison industrial complex, however or which way you'd like to refer to it. This video definitely could have been a deep dive, but it would probably end up being a series with never-ending episodes. This is my second video to close out Black History Month. Each year going forward, this will definitely be something I will continue to do, so let's get into it. In 1934, Federal Prison Industries was created. It is a government-owned corporation which was developed to help inmates learn new work skills. The idea was to have prisoners obtain new skills so when they were released, there would be an easier transition. There are 4 main reasons prisons exist: retribution, a punishment inflicted on someone as vengeance for a wrong or criminal act; incapacitation, making individuals incapable of committing a crime by execution or lengthy incarceration periods; deterrence, the incarceration time itself to deter future crime from the same individual or others; and rehabilitation, a process to help inmates address factors that lead to them becoming criminals. And technically there's a 5th one, which would be restitution, and those would be any fines that a former inmate would have to pay upon release. The United States incarcerates more people than any other nation in the world. Our incarcerated population has increased by 500% since 1970. As of today, there are 2 million people incarcerated, exceeding population growth and crime. African Americans are incarcerated nearly 5 times the rate of Caucasians and non-Latinx whites. Mass incarceration will not truly end until the racial undertones are addressed and the prosecution of low-level crimes, especially drug offenses, decriminalized or are decriminalized by changes in laws. Population and parole violations lead the way in the most unnecessary holds of incarceration. Private companies are reaping huge benefits from the prison system. Prisoners make anywhere from 90 cents to $4 a day. The private companies earn a tax credit of $2,400 for every work-release inmate they employ. This is called insourcing, and under the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. Here are the following companies that are currently using inmate slave labor. McDonald's uses inmates to produce frozen foods. Inmates process beef for patties. They also process bread, milk, and chicken products. Wendy's has also been identified as relying on prison labor to reduce its cost of operations. Inmates also process beef for patties. Walmart uses inmates for manufacturing purposes. The company hires inmates to clean products off the UPC barcode so that the products can be resold. Starbucks uses inmates to cut costs as well. Starbucks subcontractor Signature Packing Solutions hired Washington State prisoners to package the holiday coffee containers. Kmart and JCPenney both sell jeans made by inmates in Tennessee prisons. American Airlines and the car rental company Avis use inmates to take reservations. Victoria's Secret uses inmates to cut production costs as well. In South Carolina, female inmates were used to sew products. Sprint uses inmates to provide telecommunication services. Inmates are used in call centers. Now, of course, the pro would be that the inmates are able to work and they're getting paid. But there's a huge difference between a Victoria's Secret sales associate who is making anywhere from $9 to $12 an hour versus an inmate making anywhere from 90 cents to $4 a day. On top of that, when many inmates are released, it's hard for an inmate to transfer to being a normal citizen again. Mainly it's around job status. Many inmates who have felonies are not able to get good paying jobs. This is due to social stigma. Most of the companies would not hire a rehabilitated felon, but would have no problem using their labor at low cost while locked away. The impact is that a lot of released inmates are not able to find jobs, and sometimes must resort back to a certain lifestyle that may very well include criminal behavior just to make ends meet. That is when the prison becomes a revolving door.
Happened in the last 10 years. We're at this point now where there's about 1.2 million African American children with a parent who's incarcerated. And that's about 1 in 9. The research shows that kids who experience parental incarceration have diminished school achievement, they have behavioural problems, depressive symptoms, acting out. And there's also evidence that these kinds of negative effects associated with parental incarceration are concentrated more among boys than among girls. And there's a very real risk here that incarceration becomes an inherited trait. The underlying issue is we've chosen prison as a way to respond to that problem of crime. And there are a whole variety of ways that we could have chosen to respond to that problem of crime. We've chosen the response of the deprivation of liberty. And we've chosen the response of the deprivation of liberty for a historically aggrieved group whose liberty in the United States was never firmly established to begin with.
This ties back to the African American community being hit the hardest with the revolving door of crime and incarceration. I personally believe there needs to be more community outreach and getting to kids as young as possible so they know that they have different opportunities in life. I know that it is easier said than done. If a child is brought up in a family that doesn't have a lot of resources or has had a parent incarcerated, that is extremely hard. But we cannot pretend that the racial undertones have not led to the issues that we have today. It will be extremely hard for someone from an impoverished area with no community resources to exceed out of that area to have the same opportunities as someone from a middle-class area. If you are not the right complexion or born into a certain income, no, you cannot be anything you want, nor do you have the same opportunities. Obviously, I don't have a solution and neither does America, but apparently something needs to be done. The system is not working. So this was definitely like a little mini deep dive. Thank you so much if you made it to the end. I learned a lot just researching this topic. And I do just want to say, would I feel differently if someone had done a crime against me or one of my family members? Of course I would. That would definitely change my, my opinion on this. But at the end of the day, I am trying to look at this from a human rights and a civil rights point of view. And this is not okay. This is a huge problem. So thank you so much if you made it to the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a great day.